Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome all of y'all who have come to attend the Applied Bhagavatam classes, both offline and online. So I'm hoping that those who are online are able to hear and see clearly and are having a better experience than last time. Sanjay, if you can just keep monitoring. So today will be the formal beginning of the Bhagavatam classes, where we will go deep into the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm going to be trying to cover the first 3 chapters of the first canto of Bhagavatam today. But as I said, I'm not going verse by verse, but I'm going thematically. Okay. Today, I'm going to be focusing on this very broad theme, which is called the mindset of the sages of Bhagavatam. The entire discussion today is going to be about how the sages think. So all of us obviously are not sages, but we can always develop the mindset that the sages have so that we can progress in our spiritual lives. The Bhagavatam is a mirror that shows us the reflection of different personalities, and somewhere we find a little bit of reflection of our lives also, or at least what we want to be. So we may not be that right now, but we want to be there, So that's what Bhagavatam is pretty inspirational in that sense. So the story of the first canto of Bhagavatam begins with many years back. There was about 88,000 sages that gathered together in a place known as Naimisharanya. And these sages, these 88,000 sages, these sages are known as the sages of Naimisharanya. They come together headed by Shaunaka Rishi. So he is the head of all these 88,000 sages. And these 88,000 sages, along with Shaunaka Rishi, they perform a 1,000-year-long sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees. So why do they perform it in Naimisharanya? This place, Naimisharanya, is considered to be the center of the universe. And anything that is performed there is amplified. So the sages chose a forest. Many years back, the whole Brahmacharya ashram, all of us went to Naimisharanya. And we sat exactly there in the forest of Naimisharanya, and we discussed the whole Bhagavatam. We spent about 5 or 6 days there, And the most amazing thing was, even today, it is still a forest. And if you ask any of us who have gone there in that trip, they will tell you, we are not qualified to stay in Naimisharanya. Because it is one of the most intense trips we ever had in our life. I'll tell you all someday the stories of Naimisharanya in private. Anyway, so the sages, they came to this place, center of energy of the universe. Not exactly a sophisticated place, not exactly a very comfortable place, not exactly a place where you have 5-star resorts and stuff like that. It's a forest. And naturally, they are not looking for comfort. What are they looking for? They were anxious for the people of Kali. That means for all of us. So now, these sages lived thousands of years back. And they are anxious for us. Does it make any sense? I mean, we are not even anxious for somebody that is in our neighborhood, isn't it? And here are sages who have nothing to give and take with us. They are not even affected by Kali Yuga and its vices, but they are very concerned about us. And they performed a 1,000-year-long sacrifice for our benefit at great personal inconveniences. This is a mindset of the sages of Bhagavatam. Throughout the Bhagavatam, you will find the sages think beyond themselves. And the interesting thing is, the sages of the Bhagavatam, they are assembled in a forest to think about the welfare of all of us. um, the scriptures speak a lot about forests, and the scriptures also speak a lot about palaces, right? Either it speaks about palaces or it speaks about forests. The Pandavas lived in palaces, they lived in forests also. The Kauravas mostly lived in palaces, right? So you study anybody, you will either find them living in the palace or living in the forest. What is this? The palace represents comforts. Palace represents luxury. Palace represents security. Palace represents surety. The forest represents inconvenience. The forest represents insecurity. The forest represents discomfort. The forest represents inconvenience. So you may be living in a palace or you may be living in a forest. The question is, what is your mindset? Most people who live in forests, they experience extreme hunger, right? Forest is, there are two types of people that live in the forest. The sages live in the forest, and there are animals and rakshasas that live in the forest. Animals, they eat when they feel hungry. Rakshasas, they eat even when they don't feel hungry. Animals, once their quota is full, they are satisfied. But the Rakshasas, even when their quota is full, they want more. So in the forest, you will find sages who are completely defying this trend. These are people who live in the forest and they conquer hunger. These are people who live in the forest, conquer fear. These are people who live in the forest, conquer the desire for comforts and security. And they live in the forest peacefully. And that's the most amazing thing is, we all are used to living in a palace with comforts, and we don't know how to handle the forest of life. And the sages of Bhagavatam are teaching us, they have nothing, and yet they're living peacefully. We have everything, yet where is peace? Right? So the sages of the Bhagavatam are teaching us a very profound concept, which is what this whole Bhagavatam begins with. And I'm going to tell you all what this concept is with the help of a story. There was once a man who lived by selling vegetables, and he was specifically selling one vegetable, which is called the snake god. I don't know if you all know this long thing, it's called a snake god. So he was selling this vegetable. Every day he had one habit. He would give one snake god free to one sage who read one Veda daily. So all his life he gave one snake god free to one of the sages who read one of the Vedas daily. The next life, because he gave this donation every day to a sage who read the Vedas, in the next life he became a king. Fantastic palace and lot of money and all. And while he was a king, he consulted an astrologer to find out how he became a king. And then he came to know he gave one snake god every day to a sage, and therefore he became king. The king decided, I will continue the trend. I'll keep giving snake god every day, and that too, he didn't give one, he gave many snake gods to many sages, basically. Next life, he became again a vegetable seller. So when he became a vegetable seller, next life, he found out what he was in his previous life. And he got to know he was a king, and he got demoted to become a vegetable seller. He got really wild. He said, what nonsense? In the previous life, I gave one snake god and I became a king. And in this life, in the previous life, I gave so many snake gods and I have become again a vegetable seller. What is this? The astrologer explained to him, see, when you were a king, it is not expected of you to give only snake gods. When you were a vegetable seller, you gave snake god, it made sense. When you are a king, you should be giving gold in charity. You should be giving diamonds in charity. What are you giving in charity? Snake god. And therefore you become this fellow, because this is what you deserve. So donation should be given with heart full, right? It is said all the sages, all the great kings of the past, like Lord Ram, he would give unlimited wealth in charity, and he would not calculate only how much he is giving. And therefore the Lord is known, one of the names of the Lord, he is known as Bhuri Dakshinaha. Bhuri Dakshina, Dakshina means donation. Bhuri Dakshina means one who gives donations without a limit. That's called Bhuri Dakshina. All of us, we give pinch, right? When we have to give something, what comes out is like a pinch, basically. But when the Lord and His devotees give, they don't count only how much they're giving. They just keep giving. And what can you give back except gratitude? This is the mood of the sages of Bhagavatam. They are constantly giving. Bhuri Dakshinaha. They're constantly giving. Obviously now what they will give? They are not going to give money. What they're giving, knowledge, blessings, good wishes. They're trying to help us who have no access to God, no access to spirituality, and they're helping us out of their concern. So all these sages, they came together, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, and they came and met Suta Goswami. So who is Suta Goswami? Suta Goswami is a son of a person named Roma Harshana Suta. So all of them, they're called Sutas. Suta is not a surname. It is a title. And Sutas are those people. The word Suta technically means thread. Thread. And what does a thread do? The thread joins, right? You can use a thread to weave beautiful clothes. You can weave beautiful embroideries. Thread can be used to tie up things. So thread unites, isn't it? The word Suta means those who are threads. And what do they thread? They thread history. The Vedas, the Vedic scriptures and the Vedic teachings are very complicated. And for you, like suppose I'm telling you all something from the Bhagavatam. But for me to tell you something from the Bhagavatam, there might be something else in some other scripture as a reference. Right? If there's a story in the Mahabharata, for me to understand that story in the Mahabharata, there might be a story somewhere else in some other Purana that is a reference. Sutas are those people who are experts in tying up all this. That's why they're called Sutas. And all the sages headed by Shaunaka Rishi came to Suta Goswami. And why did they come to Suta Goswami? They came to Suta Goswami because, not simply because he was a son of Roma Harshana Suta. Nepotism doesn't work in the spiritual kingdom, especially among sages, Not because he was a son of Roma Harshana Suta, he got that post. He himself was qualified. And look at the qualifications of Suta Goswami. The first qualification is anagha. The word anagha means the one who is free from vices. Here are the list of qualifications for someone to become a speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam. For someone to whom 88,000 sages headed by Shaunaka Rishi can approach for guidance, for seeking knowledge, right? Anagha, freed from sins, from vices. Second is aditani akhyantani. It means this person has to be not only well versed in the scriptures, but also have explained it sufficiently. Now it's a very interesting thing. Why is the word, so adithani means if you are well versed in the scripture, that's understandable. He has to be knowledgeable. But how come they're saying that he also is someone who has explained the scriptures many times? It's a very important point. Because when you speak, when you read and you study and you absorb knowledge yourself, there is one level of assimilation and one level of digestion. But when you share that knowledge with somebody else, then your understanding grows. Why we preach, why we give lectures, why we are supposed to share knowledge? Not for others, for ourselves. When you share, your understanding increases. I have seen in my own experience, so many years I have been speaking. I've been speaking almost like now, 15 years or so. But every time I give a lecture, I feel I have grown in my understanding. So it's not just for the sake of the audience that you speak, it is for your own sake that you speak. And that's why the sages of Naimisharanya are specifically looking at this as a qualification, akhyatani. And Veda Vidam Shrestha. Veda Vidam Shrestha means he is the eldest learned Vedantist. So here, what is the meaning of eldest? Eldest is not in age. There are many types of old age according to the scriptures. Vriddha means old age. There is Vayo Vriddha means old according to age. Then there is Jnana Vriddha, which means old according to knowledge. Someone might be very young, but might be Jnana Vriddha. And then there is third thing called Shila Vriddha, which means old according to character. So someone may not be knowledgeable in age, but may actually be very well behaved in one's character and one's dealings, basically. So each one of them is called Vriddha, right? So here, when they're saying that he is Veda Vidam Shrestha, it's not about just age, it's about experience, basically. And then Saumya. Saumya means gentle, pure, and simple. And this is something very interesting. Because the more knowledgeable you are, the more arrogant one becomes. Unfortunately, knowledge is like sun, intense. But the sun is not something that is always liked by people. Summer sun, people hate. Winter sun, people love. So the question is, you may be knowledgeable like the sun, but are you emitting heat or are you providing warmth? So the sages of Naimisharanya are telling Shuddha Goswami that he is not just super knowledgeable, super intensely knowledgeable, but his knowledge is warm. That means when you come in front of somebody like Shuddha Goswami, you don't feel the arrogance radiating. You know, sometimes when you come in front of some people who are very knowledgeable, you feel arrogance radiating towards you, right? It's like too much heat, you know. But with Shuddha Goswami, he is gentle, pure, and simple. And Snigdasya. This is the most important quality of Shuddha Goswami, according to me. Snigdasya means someone who has been submissive to a teacher and on whom the teacher has bestowed blessings. Now this is something very, very special, because in spiritual life, one of the things that happens is when you are seriously practicing spirituality under the guidance of a guru, the guru observes. And when the guru is very impressed with your character, with your sensitivity, with your sincerity, with your dedication, with your knowledge, with your abilities, and with your intentions, and your service, the teacher blesses. And that blessing comes from the heart. And when you get blessed by a teacher from the heart, that's when your spirituality actually begins. Till that point in time, you are like, you are in the process. You're just getting there. But the day you get blessings of a teacher from the heart, that's when you become qualified to, give instructions to the sages of Naimisharanya, that level of people, basically. So here, when all these sages come to Shuddha Goswami, it's a very grave, ambience. It's an ambience. It's a group of people who are really intense, and you can imagine the kind of discussion that happens in such a forum, right? Most of us, when we go to some sages, when you go to some exalted people, we don't even know what to discuss. Most people just fumble, and most people are not even comfortable asking the right kind of questions. But the sages of Naimisharanya, when they come in front of Shuddha Goswami, they have some very specific questions to ask Shuddha Goswami. And when Shuddha Goswami is asked these questions, he is so impressed just by the questions that he says this. We can chant this verse together. Munaya sadhu prishtoham bhavadbhir lokamangalam yat krita krishna samparshno Yenatma suprasiddhati. So, Sutta Goswami is saying, O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they are related to Lord Krishna and are of relevance to the world's welfare. And look at this. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. Yenatma suprasiddhati. Asking questions is not easy. Most of us ask stupid questions. We are very good in asking stupid questions. And therefore, we receive stupid answers, right? There was once a king named Krishnadevaraya, very famous king. He had a minister named Tenali Raman. So this king always tested Tenali Raman in between, randomly, just to see how smart he is. And randomly he would ask him some out of the box questions, And he did it just to figure out, what kind of answers Tenali Raman will give. One day he called Tenali Raman, he asked him, can you tell me, so we have a statistics of number of human beings in the kingdom, right? Number of people that live in a country or anything like that. So the king said, I want to know the statistics of the number of crows that live in my country. Can you find out the number of crows that live in my country? Now, does that question even make sense? Is it useful? What will you do getting that number also, Is it going to be of any use to you? But somehow this king was like stuck in this question. So Tenali Raman was a very clever person. He said, yes, I will tell you. The king said, I'll give you 2 days time. And in 2 days, you have to give me the count of the number of crows. And if you don't give me the count of the number of crows, I'll kill you. Tenali Raman said, no problem. 2 days, I'll find out. 2 days he was missing. And he went around the whole kingdom. And people saw him doing all weird things. He was climbing up trees. He was using binocular and looking here and there. All strange things he did for 2 days. And he came back and told the king that there are total of 1,63,211 crores in your kingdom. The king said, how do you know? Tenali Raman said, I have my ways, I found out. The king said, what if the number is wrong? He said, you can verify, you can send your people and find out, The king was now confused, how do we verify this, And the king asked him, what if the number of crows are less? So Tenali Raman said, simply it means if the number of crows are less, that means the crows in our kingdom have gone to the next kingdom to visit their relatives. And if the number of crows are more, it means the crows from that kingdom have come to our kingdom to visit their relatives. And then the king understood, this guy is very smart. Questioning is an art. When you ask deep questions, you get very deep answers. And when you ask superficial questions, you get also superficial answers. Questioning is in fact more difficult than answering. Because when the right questions are asked, only then deep, good answers can come out. Sutta Goswami here, hearing the questions of the sages, he is saying, wow, you have mastered the art of asking questions. And you know what the most amazing thing is? Who can ask good questions? Only someone who has heard properly can ask good questions. If you have not heard properly, you can't even ask good questions. Because even to ask good questions, it requires a lot of contemplation. It requires a lot of depth, study, understanding, and analysis. And then questions come out. So the sages of Naimisharanya asked Sutta Goswami essentially 6 questions. The first question the sages of Naimisharanya asked him is, and the most amazing thing is, none of these questions are beneficial to only them. They didn't ask anything about stock market. They didn't ask anything about, elections. They didn't ask anything about, Ambani's wedding. They didn't ask anything about anything else. The only thing they were concerned about was something for the welfare of society. And these questions, imagine, they asked 5,000 years back, but they're still relevant to us. How many questions that we have asked in our life are relevant 5,000 years later? Tell me. Hardly. That's the depth of the questions. Imagine, you know. So the first question they asked, what is the absolute and ultimate good for people in general? So, of course, so the way the network of these question and answers is that these are spread over a few chapters, right? So it's not that, Sutta Goswami is answering the questions one after another in the same sequence. And the sages are not even asked him in that same sequence. They just asked him randomly. And Sutta Goswami, over a period of the next 2 or 3 chapters, he is giving explanations to these questions. So we'll quickly take them in the order in which the questions are asked, and then we'll read the verses which are answers of Sutta Goswami. And some of these verses, they are the most beautiful verses of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. They're all concentrated in one place. It's so beautiful. And I put them all together for you in one sheet, so that you can use this sheet to meditate on these most beautiful verses. So the first question, the answer to this first question, what is the absolute and ultimate good for people in general? Sutta Goswami says, devotional service. That is the answer. But the way he explains that answer is very interesting. He speaks 3 verses which are very beautiful. We'll chant these verses together. The first one is the meditative verse that that is right on top. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudereyet. So here Sutta Goswami is actually offering a small prayer. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer one respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Nara Narayan Rishi, the supermost human beings, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Shri Vyasdev, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he speaks this before beginning. So usually before Bhagavatam classes, this verse is recited very often. And then he says, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. So this verse is considered to be a defining verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai pumsam paro dharma. So he says the supreme dharma for humanity is that by which men can attain loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. And such devotional service must be ahaituki and apratihata, unmotivated and uninterrupted. And such devotional service completely satisfies the self. And so basically, the sages are asking, what is the absolute and ultimate good for people in general? So Sutta Goswami is saying, the absolute good that completely satisfies the self is devotional service. Savayet pumsam paro dharma yato bhakti adokshaje. Bhakti adokshaje. Bhakti to adokshaje is the supreme satisfying thing. And then the next verse he says, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from this world. So this way, Sutta Goswami explains the answer to the first question. The second question the sages ask him is, explain the essence of all scriptures for the good of all living beings. So here again, Sutta Goswami is answering with the help of some very beautiful verses. So there are a few verses which are not there in the sheet. I'll just quickly run through those verses. So he begins by saying, Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan satvatam pati Shrotavya kirtitavyascha Dheya pujasyya nityada. He's saying with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember and worship the Supreme Lord. Shushusho siddhadanasya Vasudeva kataruchi Syan mahat sevaya vipra Punya tirtha nisevanat. He says by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vices, great service is done. And by such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of the Supreme Lord. And then, and then he chants these two verses, very beautiful verses. We'll chant this together. Vasudeva paraveda, Vasudeva paramaka, Vasudeva parayoga, Vasudeva parakriya, Vasudeva param jnanam, Vasudeva param tapa, Vasudeva paro dharma, Vasudeva paragati. So he's saying all the revealed scriptures speak this. The ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. The purpose of performing any sacrifice is to please him. So Vasudeva Paraveda, the purpose of reading all the script, ultimate object of all scriptures is Vasudeva. Vasudeva Paramakha, that means the purpose of performing any sacrifice is to please Vasudeva. Vasudeva Para Yoga, the purpose of yoga is to realize him. Vasudeva Para Kriya, the purpose of any activity is rewarded only by him. Vasudeva Param Jnanam, he is the supreme knowledge. Vasudeva Param Tapa, he is the essence of all austerities. All severe austerities are performed only to know him. Vasudeva Paro Dharma, he is, so religion or dharma is rendering service to him. That's the essence of religion. And Vasudeva Paragati, the goal of life is Vasudeva. Then the Sutta Goswamis, the sages of Naimisharanya ask him, why did the Lord appear as a son of Devaki and Vasudeva? So to answer this question, Sutta Goswami shares this beautiful verse. So he says, Bhavayati esha satvena Lokan vai loka bhavanaha Leela avatar nurato Devatiryan naradisho. So he says, the Lord of the universes maintains all the planets inhabited by the demigods, men and lower beings. Assuming the role of incarnations, he performed pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of ignorance. Those in the mode of goodness. So essentially what Sutta Goswami is saying, the reason the Lord performs all these pastimes is to simply attract our hearts. That's all. The only reason the Lord performs these pastimes is to attract the hearts of good people. There was a very exalted poet named Kamba who tries to describe the beauty of God in his poetry. So Kamba writes Tamil poetry. And in one verse in Tamil poetry, he tries to describe the Lord's beauty. So he is trying to compare the beauty of the Lord with different things in this world. So first he compares the beauty of the Lord with the kajal. You know, when someone applies kajal in the eyes, it looks very attractive, right? So he is comparing the beauty of the Lord with kajal. And the Lord is also dark, right? He is blackish in color. So he is comparing the beauty of the Lord with kajal. And the moment he says that, he feels that this is not a good comparison. Because kajal is not the best type of color. It's very sticky and yucky like that. You know? So he says, no, let me go further. So he says, then he compares the beauty of the Lord with the color of a stone named Markatamani. And then he says, no. This is also not a good comparison because Markatamani's color is not pleasing to the eyes. And then he compares the beauty of the Lord with the color of the ocean. Because we see the ocean, a little dark in color, right? So he says, that is also not a good idea because the ocean is salty. You know? And then he compares the beauty of the Lord with the cloud of the color of the rain clouds, which is also dark, right? And then he says, no. The rain clouds change their color after they give rain, you know. So it's not a good comparison. And then finally, he really gets confused in his poetry, and in his typical Tamil poetic way, he says, Ayyo. Now, for those who understand what Ayyo means in Tamil, so it can be used in many ways, basically. So, in this case, he is trying to say, I can't describe the beauty of the Lord. Ayyo, I can't describe the beauty of the Lord, you know. There was once a small boy whose grandmother had made some sweets, very nice sweets, and she put it on a loft so that this boy doesn't reach it. So this guy, he wants it somehow, you know. So what he does, he puts one stool and climbs on it, very, very far. He puts another stool on that stool and climbs on the second stool. Still it is very, very far. The loft is very high, you know. He put the third stool and climbs on it. Still he is not able to reach. And this time he, you know, on his legs, he stands up till the edge of his legs, literally, trying to reach out. And when he is almost about to touch, he falls down. And he says, Ayyo. When he falls, he says, Ayyo. So the Acharyas explain this is what is happening with Kamba Muni, basically. He is trying to reach the Lord's beauty, which is like very, very lofty, very, very high, you know. So he puts one stool, not able to reach. He puts another stool, he is not able to reach. He puts a third stool, he is not able to reach. He puts a fourth stool, he is still not able to reach. And then when he tries to reach more further, he falls down. And he says, Ayyo, I can't. So essentially, the beauty of the Lord is like that sweet. Yeah. And Kamba is like that boy who's trying to reach the sweet, which is using three stools, basically. And then he falls down. The day a poet accepts his inability to describe the Lord, that is the day he has actually reached his highest ability in poetry. So, when a poet fails, the poet rises. So here, Suta Goswami is trying to describe to us, explain to us something that is very, very lofty, that is very high for us to understand. So the beauty of the Lord, it cannot be described. And therefore the Lord is called Soman. The word Soman means nectar. And because he is nectar to the devotees, he is called as Soman, which essentially means that why Krishna performs so many of his pastimes? Only for one reason, to attract our hearts. That's all. He killing demons and all that anybody else can do, you know. He is not interested in killing demons, he is not interested in all those activities. He is only coming here to perform all these pastimes to attract our hearts. And then Suta Goswami is asked by the sages, describe the adventures of his various incarnations. And then Suta Goswami goes on to describe in great detail the Purusha avatars. And then they ask him, narrate the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. And then Suta Goswami goes on to describe all the Leela avatars. And so the third chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam, the entire third chapter, literally 27 verses of the third chapter, is a list of all the different incarnations of the Lord, the Leela avatars and the Purusha avatars. And after completing the entire list of all the incarnations of the Lord, then Suta Goswami speaks this very beautiful verse, which is one of the very, very topmost verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's considered to be the cream verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Ete cham shakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. So after describing the 27 verses which talk about the different incarnations of the Lord, then Sutta Goswami speaks this verse which is the conclusion of all the incarnations. So he says, all that I described above, Ete chamsa kalapumsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. He says, all of this, of all of these different incarnations, Krishna is the topmost. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, he says. And he concludes this, basically. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary expansions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Shri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on the planets. Whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists, the Lord incarnates to protect the theists. There are so many incarnations of the Lord. It is explained that the number of incarnations, of course, if you ask anybody what are the number of incarnations of the Lord, they will say Dashavatara. But if you read here the Bhagavatam, in these 27 verses itself, there are more than 25 incarnations mentioned. But the Bhagavatam mentions the actual number of incarnations of the Lord are as many as waves in an ocean. As many as wave. Can you count the number of waves? You cannot. So how many incarnations the Lord has taken? There is no number only. You go to any corner in India, there is one incarnation, one temple, and the Lord has taken a special incarnation for some special devotee there. And you begin to wonder, what is this? Everywhere Lord is taking special incarnation, and that temple says this is the most special deity of the Lord, isn't it? Why not? The number of incarnations are like waves in an ocean, isn't it? There's a beautiful temple in between Kanyakumari and a place known as Thiruvananthapuram. In between the two, there is a temple which is known as Thiruvattar. That is the name of the deity there, Thiruvattar. So there was once a demon named Adikeshi. So we all know of Keshi, right? Whom Kamsa sent to kill Krishna. This fellow is Adikeshi. He's senior Keshi, basically. Yeah. So then after that, junior Keshi comes later on. But this fellow is senior Keshi. So Adikeshi was troubling the gods like anything. All the devatas were in great trouble by Adikeshi. So then all the gods, they went to Brahmaji. And they told Lord Brahma that this Adikeshi is troubling us too much. Please help us. Lord Brahma said, the only person who can help us is the Supreme Lord. Let's go to Lord Vishnu. So they all went to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu tells them, please tell me how you want me to kill him. I will kill him in the exact way that you tell me. So Brahmaji, he thought of a very unique way of killing this Adikeshi demon. And he told the Supreme Lord that, my dear Lord, teach all the Asuras a lesson by killing this fellow in a very unique way. And Brahmaji told him, throw him on the ground and you lie down on him. Let all the Asuras know that you are lying down on this fellow. And they will never attempt to do such things again. So Lord Vishnu said, yes, I will do exactly like that. So he fought with this Adikeshi demon, pushed him down, and then spread his Adishesha on this demon and lied down on the Adishesh. So below Adikeshi is there, on top of that Adishesh is there, and then on top of that Vishnu is there. So here this Adikeshi had a wife. She went to Mother Ganga and complained to Mother Ganga, look what Vishnu has done to my husband, So you are a girl, you are a lady, you should support me, This whole women's movement started that time, Ganga felt very bad. She said, yes, very bad Vishnu has done. So she said, I will support you. And Ganga, she combined with this river known as Tamraparani. So in that area, there was Tamraparani river. So Ganga entered into the Tamraparani river and began to rage towards the place where Lord Vishnu is lying on the snake bed on Adikeshi. So Lord Vishnu saw Ganga coming, so he knew the Tamraparani and Ganga combined together and coming to attack him. So Lord Vishnu just looked at Bhudevi. Bhudevi is the, her, the consort of Lord Vishnu, earth personified, right? So what Bhudevi did, she just rose above like a small mound behind Lord Vishnu. So the Ganga comes and hits very intensely on this mound and it splits into two parts. So the river goes in two sides around the Supreme Lord. So on both the sides of the Lord, there is two rivers split and going that side. And Anantashesh and Lord Vishnu are lying on the Adisheshi without being affected. Later on, Ganga Devi, she felt very bad. She went and begged forgiveness to the Supreme Lord. She said, sorry, I disturbed you. The Lord said, no, don't worry. I have forgiven you. In fact, you have created a beautiful garland of a river for me. So I have accepted your service. Like that, the Lord, in fact, the idea, when the river splits into two parts, it is known as Vattam. And therefore, the Lord is known as Thiruvattar. That means the Lord around whom the river runs like a garland. So essentially, the Lord takes the form that the devotees want. So if you see how many incarnations of the Lord are there, so the sage is asking, there are as many incarnations as many devotees have desires. If you have a unique desire of worshipping the Lord in a particular way, He will take incarnation for you. Now you might say, how only for me? Arey Baba, He will take. You have faith. He has taken for so many people. Why He will not take for you? The only problem is there, we have this doubt. Why He will take for me? Therefore He doesn't take for me. But otherwise the Lord is ready to take. As many incarnations as needed basically. So Sutta Goswami is answering this question by saying that there is no limit to the number of incarnations. The Leela avatars and Purusha avatars are continuous. They will keep on going on as long as creation exists. And the Lord gives us darshan as per our vidhi. The word vidhi, it could be translated as destiny. It could be translated as bhagya. It could be translated from the perspective of pap and punya. That the word vidhi can be translated in any ways. But the Acharyas also explain the word vidhi can be translated as per our desire. Aapke vidhi anusar Bhagavan Leela avatar lenge. So according to your desire, the Lord will take an incarnation. And that is how the Lord incarnates. And the sixth question that the sages ask is, whom did the religious principles take shelter of after the departure of Lord Krishna? And Sutta Goswami answers through this very beautiful verse. Krishne swadhamo pagate dharma jnanadibhi saha kalau nasta drisham esha puranarko dhanoditaha. This Bhagavad Puran is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to His own abode, accompanied by religion and knowledge. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. Sutta Goswami is explaining that for all those people who felt that once Krishna is gone, hope is gone, this verse is the hope-giving verse. Krishna never leaves us without any hope, basically. There are many people, many religions that claim that our religion has saved you. Isn't it? Then before that religion began, nobody saved them. The answer is here. Krishna saves. Krishna is there for people all the time. Even when He departs from this planet, He leaves back something to give people hope. So there is no time in history where the source of hope is missing. So after Krishna is gone, the source of hope is Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna Himself. So we should not think that Srimad Bhagavatam is something different from Krishna. Krishna himself has incarnated in a literary form and left behind his presence in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, um, this discussion of all the sages of Naimisharanya with Sutta Goswami is not a small discussion. So, this 6 questions and 6 answers that the sages have got is just the beginning of the discussion. So, the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is actually a constant flow of discussions. So, the way the Bhagavatam is written is, it is a conversation within a conversation. So, Vyasadeva is writing the Srimad Bhagavatam, he is like the compiler of the Bhagavatam. But within the Bhagavatam, he is writing about Shukadeva Goswami speaking the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. And within that, Suta Goswami is narrating to the sages of Naimisharanya about how he heard from Shukadeva Goswami the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam. You understand? So, Suta Goswami was there in that assembly when Shukadeva Goswami narrating the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. He heard it, and now he is narrating to the sages of Naimisharanya. And the sages of Naimisharanya, what they heard from Suta Goswami, Vyasadeva is writing it. And the interesting thing is that Vyasadeva is inside that text also. So you might ask, what is this? Hen came first or egg came first? Both came simultaneously. So you cannot see, that's why Bhagavatam cannot be studied chronologically. In fact, none of the scriptures can be studied chronologically. Because if you try to study chronologically, you will get confused. What you should understand the spirit and not the chronology of events. The spirit is more important than chronology, because chronology means what? One after another, right? It's a linear, right? But our scriptures are cyclic. The Vedas are cyclic. Yugas are cyclic. Everything is cyclic. So when we are in a cyclic process, how can a linear system make sense? So a lot of people try to fit the chronology of Bhagavatam linearly. It will never work. And therefore, the Vedic scriptures inspire you to get used to a cyclic thought process from the beginning. Those who study history and come here, they get super confused. Because Bhagavatam is not a historian's job. It is not a study of historians. It will not work only. So chronologically you can't study Bhagavatam. What you have to study Bhagavatam is in terms of spirit, in terms of the essence. And the essence is intact. So in this discussion, Suta Goswami is narrating the life of Vyasadeva. So the life of Vyasadeva is a very interesting life. So I'll just try to explain the life of Vyasadeva in essence today. So we saw the sages of Naimisharanya. This is one set of the sages of Bhagavatam. Then we saw Suta Goswami, so another very special personality of sages of Bhagavatam. And now we're seeing Vyas, who is the original compiler of the Bhagavatam, and his story. Vyasadeva, he once was meditating. And in his meditation, he saw a very, very powerful vision that shook him up. This was like thousands of years back, 5,000 years back, he had this vision. And he was sitting on the banks of the Saraswati river, and suddenly a vision hit him. He was seeing the vision of the age of Kali 5,000 years later. How the age of Kali will impact. He probably saw the chaos AI was causing, He probably saw the addiction people had of mobile phones, and he probably saw the struggle that people are having of not getting sleep at night, waking up like owls and sitting and watching everybody around them, So he saw all this and he was like really shocked, I mean, 5,000 years back, if somebody told someone, I don't get sleep, they'll probably laugh at you, isn't it? I mean, even 100 years back, if somebody told someone, I don't get sleep, they will still laugh at you. But today, if someone says, I don't get sleep, they will say, I also don't get sleep. So Vyasadeva, he saw this vision, and in his vision, he saw exactly what happens to all of us in Kali Yuga. And here are the symptoms of Kali that Vyasadeva saw. Prayena alpa ayusha sabhya kalavasmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo Mandabhagya hi upadhrita Alpa Ayusha means short lifespan. Why short lifespan? Simply because no regulation. Eat anytime, sleep anytime, wake up anytime, do anything anytime. Because there is no regulation, that is why lifespans are shorter. Suppose by some providence you have a long lifespan. Don't think you are saved, because there is further problems. So suppose you have a little decent lifespan. The second problem is manda. The word manda means lazy. Lazy doesn't mean they're actually lazy. They're lazy specifically about spirituality. About watching Kalki movie, they will run. For anything that is other than, look at the number of people that went over there to see the cricketers. 99% of them never saw also. But they said, I was there. Bas. That's it. For that, how much enthusiasm, how much inspiration. You go in the biggest of chaos and confusion, no problem, I will reach there, basically. Ask them to come for Bhagavatam class, super laziness, and we get innovative ideas of why I cannot come. All very, very justified, all very valid ideas. And when you hear those ideas, you can only say, okay, it's fine, You feel bad, after hearing all those excuses, basically, So that's why the whole idea of manda. When it comes to hearing class, suddenly we become tired. So all this is under the category of manda. And suppose somehow you overcome laziness and you decide, chalo, I will come for class. I'll do something spiritual. There is further problem. Sumanda matayo. That means people are less intelligent. So that means anybody says anything and we will follow it. Somebody says worship this, somebody says worship that, somebody says worship something, somebody says worship nothing, somebody says worship anything. And we are so damn confused what to worship and whom to worship. This is called Sumanda Matayo, means less intelligent. We don't have the ability to understand only what is the right thing to do. And then somehow or the other, if somebody is able to understand also, there is further problem. Mandabhagya. Mandabhagya means unfortunate. Even if somehow you come to the right place, some problem or the other happens. Some problem or the other happens, isn't it? So many people come to, Krishna consciousness, they start taking spirituality also, and then some unfortunate incident happens, some problem happens in their life, and they say, no, this is not meant for me. And somehow they go away. And finally, the last word that is here is upadhritaha, which means disturbed. Nowadays people wear this t-shirt. Please don't disturb already disturbed. My love, I am already so disturbed in my life. You cannot disturb me further. So this is the situation of people in Kali Yuga. And this is what Vyasadeva saw that day. And when he saw these people of Kali Yuga and in such a disturbed situation, he felt very bad. And he decided, I want to do something for these people. There was once some sages who came to meet Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva had gone to the Ganga to have a bath. And while he was bathing in the Ganga, the sages came to just ask him some questions. And Vyasadeva was dipping into the Ganga, taking these 3 dips basically. And the sages were standing on the edge of on the bank of the Ganga river, and they were looking at Vyasadeva. They didn't even ask him questions. They were just standing there, they were waiting for Vyasadeva to come out from bath, and then they thought they'll ask him questions. But Vyasadeva is so intelligent, he understood the questions they were going to ask. And while dipping only, he answered all their questions. First dip, he dipped and he said, Kali Sadhuhu. And then he took another dip. He said, Yoshita Sadhuhu. And then he took a third dip and he said, Shudra Sadhuhu. The sages, they said, wow, thank you very much. You answered all our questions. And they went away. Now for people, you and me, I need to give a long purport to it. For us to understand what exactly this is all about, So Kali Sadhuhu means of all the ages, all the Treta, Satya, Dwapar, Kali, Kali is the best. Kali is Sadhuhu, means of the four yugas, Kali Yuga is the best, as they were saying. Yoshita Sadhuhu means of the two genders, male and female, female is the best, as they were saying. And Shudra Sadhuhu, that means of the four, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Shudra is the best. So now, why is Vyasadeva saying this? The understanding that the Acharyas give is that, if you look at this from the point of view of sadhana, Satya Yuga is the best for doing sadhana. Because good atmosphere, good minds, good bodies, long lifespan, so you can do good quality sadhana in Satya Yuga. If you look at it from the point of view of sadhana, male body is best to perform sadhana. So many inconveniences are not there. And if you look at it from the point of view of performing sadhana, Brahmana is the best. Because Brahmanical lifestyle, Brahmanical culture, Brahmanical body, it facilitates basically. So from sadhana aspect, those three are the best. But from sadhya aspect, it is exactly the opposite. So what is the meaning of sadhya? Sadhya means that which you achieve. Sadhana is a means and sadhya is the goal. Sadhana is the means to achieve the goal, which is Krishna Prem, right? Sadhya means goal. So whatever you have to achieve can be achieved by 1/10 of the effort that it requires for you to achieve in Dwapar Yuga, in Kali Yuga. 1/10 of what you need to do in Dwapar Yuga. 1/100th of what you need to do in Treta Yuga. And 1,000th of what you need to do in Satya Yuga. So that means, by doing so little, we're getting the same benefit as those guys were doing so much. 60,000 years of tapasya in Satya Yuga, and you do 60-minute tapasya in Kali Yuga. Same. Amazing, isn't it? Which will you prefer? Will you prefer to do 60,000 years or 60 minutes? Obviously 60 minutes, isn't it? Anybody will say that. But the problem is also so many. So therefore, the Lord, the reason He has put it, He has made it so simple. See, imagine if the sadhana also is so much, who will do? To do 16 rounds itself is a big thing. To convince someone you have to do 16 rounds is a task. Literally a task, Not easy. Not easy at all for someone to do 16 rounds with all the problems that I cited, and with such a disturbed mind. So if sadhana is same, nobody will do in Kali Yuga. But sadhya is same, basically. So Vyasadeva is saying Kali Sadhuhu because sadhana in Kali Yuga is simple. And because sadhana in Kali Yuga is simple, Kali Yuga is the best. You get the same result. It doesn't mean the result is anything lesser. Mind you, the result is not lesser, the result is same, but the effort is lesser. So it is said that whenever there is an eclipse, lunar eclipse or solar eclipse, within an eclipse, there is eclipse is bad, isn't it? It's considered to be very, very bad time, isn't it? But within every eclipse, there is a small gap, there is a small time period which is known as Punya Kal. Within an eclipse, there is a small time period which is known as Punya Kal of that eclipse. Similarly, Kali Yuga is bad, but within Kali Yuga, there is a small Punya Kal in which we are all right now there. Srila Prabhupada said 10,000 years from the time Lord Chaitanya said went. So we are literally within the Punyakal of Kali Yuga. Imagine if this is what Punyakal looks like, what Papakal will look like. Going further, what we are going to see, we don't even know. But we are fortunate enough to be in the Punyakal of Kali Yuga. Might as well take advantage and perfect our lives in this period itself. So Vyasadeva sensed that these guys are not going to be able to make it. So he said, he felt very bad for all of us. We were not even born that time. He felt bad for us. We didn't even exist at that time. He felt bad for us. Imagine feeling bad for somebody that you don't even know. Right? This is compassion. Imagine feeling bad for someone that you will never meet in your life. This is what compassion looks like, isn't it? The sages of the Bhagavatam, they are compassionate to people that they will never ever get benefited from. You think you're going to pay a royalty to Vyasadeva for his books? You think Vyasadeva is going to get any kind of benefit by you reading his books 5,000 years later? Nothing. And what qualification we have to do any benefit to him? He's already in the supreme most situation, isn't it? But yet he is compassionate for us. So Vyasadeva, when he sensed the issue, he sensed a problem. And the problem that he sensed is that these guys, with their Kali Yuga brains, today's brains, they call popcorn brains. I don't know if you understand what that means, You know what's the meaning of popcorn brain? Popcorn brain, popcorn, tuck, 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 it blasts popcorn, So our brain are like popcorns right now because we cannot focus on anything more than 5 minutes. Literally, isn't it? There was a time when I could read for 1 hour continuously. But today if I try to read for 1 hour, there are so many messages and so many alerts happening in all directions. How can you focus, isn't it? That's why our brains are called popcorn brains. So Vyasadeva said, these guys with popcorn brains, where they're going to focus on reading the Vedas? Impossible. And therefore, for our benefit, he decided to put some efforts. When you sense a problem, you should start working towards a solution to the problem, rather than just complaining. Vyasadeva saw a vision. He saw people of Kali are going to have difficulties. Instead of just simply complaining, saying that, oh, useless people they are, oh, you don't know what they're going to do. Instead of just complaining about what we can't do and what we are not able to do, he said, let me try to help them. So whenever we come across problems in our lives, Vyasadeva's approach is a very interesting approach. It is good to put effort to deal with your problems, even if they have not yet come. So Vyasadeva, he decided to sit down and organize the Vedas. Before that, the Vedas were not organized in a format that we see them today. Because in those times, before that, people were Shrutidhars. They didn't need books to read. They would remember everything just by rote memory. So all the knowledge of the Vedas, people were just remembering just like that. And imagine Vyasadeva is sitting here and starting to write. People must be wondering, what is he doing? Why is he writing? Is his memory so bad that he's writing? So in those days, people didn't need that. But Vyasadeva realized that there's going to be a time when people are not going to be able to remember. So he decided to write down. The word Vyasa means organizer. The word Vyasa means organizer, compiler, like that. So Vyasa divided the Vedas into 4 parts. So typically, as I said, before that, Vedas were only heard. They were not read, basically. And what he started doing was, he started organizing it in structure, basically. So if you study the Vedas and any of the Vedic scriptures, you will find sections, divisions. They call mandals. And a collection of mandals is called Samhita. So like that, there are, the Vyasadeva started putting them in order. And like say, for example, these numbers that you see over here, 1.2.6, 1.2.7, what is this? This is all Vyasadeva's work. He put them in structures so that for people like you and me, when we look at something structured, we can understand it. Otherwise, this knowledge is just there. It was not structurally available. Vyasadeva put this in structure. So first he wrote the 4 Vedas. And after he wrote the 4 Vedas, he felt the 4 Vedas are going to be a little difficult for people to understand. So he taught these 4 Vedas individually to 4 different disciples. And he told them, spread each Veda yourself. So you don't even have to study all the 4 Vedas together. You study one Veda also, you'll get benefited. So people started, becoming 1 Vedi, 2 Vedi, 3 Vedi, Chatur Vedi, like that, So according to what access they have of knowledge. And then he realized after writing the Vedas, this is not enough because people are not going to be able to understand the Vedas because the Vedas is in prose, very complicated prose. He said, I need to give it in a structure that is simpler. So he wrote the 108 Upanishads. The 108 Upanishads are not prose like Vedas, but they are sutra form, very short sutras. If you study the Ishopanishad, that's a typical Upanishadic language. It's a little complex language. It's much simpler than the Vedas, but much more complicated than the Puranas. And after writing the 108 Upanishads, Vyasadeva felt, I don't think these guys will even be able to figure this out. Then he wrote the 18 Puranas. The word Purana means once upon a time. So the moment I begin a story, people wake up. Till I am telling philosophy, people go to sleep, So Vyasadeva realized that long back. He said, therefore I have to write the Puranas. And therefore he wrote 18 Puranas. And if you study all the Puranas, it's pure stories. And after writing the 18 Puranas, he still felt these guys will not be able to figure it out. And then he wrote the Mahabharata, which is one story. Because Puranas are hundreds of stories. Many people tell me, how do you remember so many stories? That's how the Puranic language is. Hundreds of stories. And therefore, then Vyasadeva wrote one Mahabharata, one story. People say, wow, this makes sense, We like Mahabharata, But they don't understand that within that Mahabharata, the entire message of the Vedas is there. Everything that one needs to know, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, everything is there in the Mahabharata. But it is weaved through a masterful storytelling. The most amazing thing is, after Vyasadeva wrote all this, he put all the effort for us. After he put all the effort, he sat down to evaluate his effort. He sat down to evaluate his effort. This evaluation has to be done honestly and intensely. See, all of us, we put efforts, right? But after putting efforts, do we spend time evaluating our efforts? Most of the times we don't, right? Look at Vyasadeva. He put such an Herculean effort of dividing the scriptures into such beautiful things. After that, he sat down and evaluated it honestly, very sincerely. And after contemplating very honestly and sincerely, he realized, I am feeling dissatisfied. So, if the writer himself is feeling dissatisfied, Vyasadeva realized, how will my audience feel satisfied? After you finish writing a book, at least you should feel satisfied, right? I have written a good book, If you yourself are not feeling satisfied, then how can you satisfy others, basically? So Vyasadeva felt dissatisfied, and then he realized, my dissatisfaction is good. Because I'm feeling dissatisfied, I will still think what I can do further. If you feel satisfied, then you won't do anything, isn't it? The problem with us is that we do nothing and still feel satisfied. बहुत कर लिया जीवन में. I have done too much in life, Vyasadeva is not feeling satisfied, and you and me doing nothing, we are feeling satisfied. We earn like 1 crore, 2 crore, you earn, feel I have done something fantastic in my life. Come on, human life is not meant for getting satisfied so easily. Vyasadeva, look at the level at which he is endeavoring and still not feeling satisfied. So Vyasadeva, he realized dissatisfaction is an indicator that you need to go deeper in life. If you are feeling dissatisfied in life, it's an indicator you need to go deeper. Something is missing. It's an indicator. So Vyasadeva felt something is missing. And he felt, I have missed out something here. And therefore, I am not feeling Ananda. I'm going to tell you all a fantastic thought. before we end today. And this will explain to you exactly how Vyasdev is feeling. The word Ananda, when do you feel happiness? I'll explain that to you. The word Ananda refers to the Lord, to the Supreme Lord, who is blissful. He's bliss personified, basically. How much bliss the Lord is having? To understand that, to experience that, I'll give you a simple example. It is said, 1 unit of human happiness is, if a person, so 1 unit of human happiness equal to, when a person is young, he's a good person, he's capable, blessed by superiors, mentally strong, healthy, and world famous. When somebody has all this together, that person experiences 1 unit of human happiness. Most of us, we have never experienced 1 unit also. That means basically. So if all this you have, you experience 1 unit of human happiness. And multiply that into 100. That is the happiness that is experienced by Manushya Gandharvas. There is something called Manushya Gandharvas. The experience that happiness is 100 into 1 unit of human happiness. Multiply that by 100 is 1 unit of Deva Gandharva happiness. Multiply that by 100 is 1 unit of Pitra happiness. Multiply that by 100 is 1 unit of Devata happiness. Multiply that by 100 is 1 unit of the king of Devatas happiness. Multiply that by 100 is 1 unit of the Devatas Guru Brahaspati's happiness. Multiply that by 100 is 1 unit of Lord Brahma's happiness. And multiply that by 100 is 1 unit of Lord Narayan's happiness. So you can imagine how happy now Lord Narayan is, you know. We can't even measure how happy the Lord is, right? And therefore he is called Ananda. Vyasdev, he thought, I have done everything, but I have not focused on the Lord in all my writing directly. And because I have not focused on Ananda, therefore I am not experiencing Ananda. The Lord, Krishna, is not just experiencing bliss, Ananda himself, but he can also give bliss to us. Therefore, one of the names of the Lord is known as Nandana. The word Ananda means the one who experiences happiness, but the word Nandana means the one who can give happiness to others. Vyasdev felt, maybe the reason I am not happy is because I have not focused on the Lord directly. And therefore I am not feeling satisfied. So if any of us in our lives, we are feeling dissatisfied, if any of us in our life, we are feeling something is missing, if any of us in our life, we feel life is still incomplete, maybe we have not focused on Ananda, the pleasure that comes only by focusing on the Supreme Lord. The Bhagavatam begins by Vyasdev's dissatisfaction, and he's thinking, maybe this is my problem. This is the root of my dissatisfaction. The most amazing thing about the Bhagavatam and all our scriptures is that they talk about somebody else's problem, but actually they address our problems. So maybe some of us in our lives, right now, we may be having everything. We may be having the best jobs, the best of families, the best of houses, everything wonderful happening in our lives. But still, we feel something is missing. Maybe Vyasdev's dissatisfaction is also connected with our dissatisfaction. And the answer that Vyasadeva is going to get the next time from his guru, Narad Muni, may be the answer that all of us seek in our own lives. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So we can take 1 or 2 questions now before we end. Anyone would like to ask any questions? So those who are on YouTube could also ask questions. I'm going to try to see if I can.
There is one question on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. So Virendra Prabhu is asking, Bhagavan Krishna is Avatari. Then why some Vaishnav Sampradayas consider Krishna as 8th avatar of Vishnu?
Yeah. So essentially, the focus of different sampradayas is different. The Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya's focus is prominently on Krishna worship, but many Sampradayas focus on worshipping Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu. And because they focus on that, as I said, the Lord reciprocates with you the way you focus on Him. So if they choose to focus on that aspect of the Lord is supreme there and He stops there. And therefore, for those people, Krishna is the 8th incarnation. And that's also true. So I feel that rather than looking at it from a philosophical point of view, we look at it from a experiential point of view and don't go and fight with them saying that what is this, you all are worshipping Narayan, don't you know? Come on, relax, let them worship the way they want, because the Lord is revealing to them in the way they want Him to reveal. And for you, if you are comfortable worshipping Lord Krishna and if you want to worship Lord Krishna, Krishna will reveal Himself to you in that way. So I think each one of us have to choose that and allow them to worship the way they are. Anybody here has a question? You can ask.
Krishna Prabhu, thank you for a lovely class. And question is, I was reading the purports before coming here. So it also mentions one of the 6 questions that hearing at length, great length, is considered a performing sacrifice in itself. What is meant by performing sacrifice here? Like, what is sacrifice when you're hearing actually?
Yeah. If you read the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna answers this. So Krishna says there are different types of sacrifices. And in Shravanam, when you hear, your ears are the sacrificial yagya kund. The ears are like a yagya kund. And when you pour in the knowledge, that knowledge is like, pouring the oblations into the yagya kund, basically. The time that you spend is a sacrifice that you do when you are in Shravan Yagya, basically. And the concentration, the effort that you put to focus, that's the sacrifice. That's the element of sacrifice involved here. Yeah. Anything else? One more question we can take before we end. Yes.
Parts.
Pardon?
Upanishads are divided in 3 or 4 parts.
Yeah.
So I've heard that it's in every Upanishad there are they consider them as a god, supreme god. Is it true, or how is it defined? Means,
see, the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Vedas, they allow flexibility in terms of every individual's choice. So you'll find Puranas in the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, the mode of goodness. So if someone is in the mode of ignorance, in terms of your habits, in terms of your lifestyle, etc., you will be naturally attracted to a particular form of worship. And naturally you'll be attracted to a particular form of worship, a form to worship, basically. And that's not wrong. Because ultimately all the forms are expansions of the Supreme Lord only. Right? Like, say for example, human forms also. We are all expansions of the Lord only, isn't it? Within a human being also is divinity. So if you worship an ordinary human being, you are actually worshipping one small aspect of the Lord. It's not the complete Lord, but you are worshipping one small aspect of the Lord. So recognizing that there is divinity in everything and everyone, the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Vedas allow an expansive way of worshipping. It doesn't mean that it's conclusive. It simply means that it is progressively taking you towards the complete understanding. So right now you may be in A, but you have to reach Z at some point. But if I say that directly start at Z, I'm not prepared for it. So the Upanishads say at least start at A. Chalo, fine. You start at the level at which you are comfortable and then grow slowly. So that's the way in which the Upanishads, the Puranas and the Vedas define things and help people progress.
is Bhagavatam is also in the Upanishads?
Yeah. So Bhagavatam is one of the Puranas, but is considered to be Amala Puran. It's considered, so though it is part of the Puran, it is still separate. Bhagavad Gita is like, in one sense, it's called Gita Upanishad also. It's one of the Upanishads also. But still it is different, isn't it? So though the Bhagavatam is a part of the Puranic encyclopedia, but it's still different because it has its own special seat. Okay? Thank you. Very, very grateful to all of you all for coming here. I know it is so tempting to hear online, but I am so grateful to see all of you all here. In fact, I was not sure whether I'm going to see anyone here. I thought maybe I'll just see a camera and speak. But it really requires a lot of effort and enthusiasm to be here physically. So grateful to all of you all. And of course, I'm grateful to all those who are online in every part of the world attending the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so happy and grateful to serve all of you all. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.